CJNG is the single criminal organization most responsible for these deaths on both sides of the border.
The Jalisco New Generation Cartel took the fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade.
Tonight, the DEA is offering $10 million for information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho.
You might think the days of cartel violence are over, or that they peaked with Pablo Escobar or El Chapo a long time ago. But violence in Mexico is at an all-time high today, and it's all thanks to the cartel Jalisco New Generation, or CJNG. Ever since CJNG rose to power and started fighting the Sinaloa cartel, violent deaths have become the norm for the terrified Mexican communities. Bodies are hung from bridges, burned, or beheaded, and left where everyone could see them. CJNG targets anyone, from rival cartels to police officers, and even civilians. Fear is their currency. This is the full story of CJNG, the most violent cartel to ever exist. Today's story begins with a slightly older cartel, Los Zetas. Los Zetas started out as the Gulf Cartel's army. It was the first cartel army that was made of specially trained soldiers, Mexican deserters that had trained in the US.
So what you saw was a change in the way drug cartels fought with violence. It was no longer those gang members with shaved heads and tattoos, fighting with pistols and knives. It was militarized style, fighting like military units. And once they did it, this was spread across to every cartel in Mexico.
Until Los Zetas, cartel violence was more of a means to an end than a goal in itself. But Los Zetas glorified violence and even rewarded its most brutal soldiers with medals of honor. In 2010, Los Zetas broke away from the Gulf Cartel and became their own cartel. During their years, homicides in Mexico rose dramatically, and the crime scenes were worse than ever.
They burned these individuals in a 55-gallon drum using diesel because diesel burns slower.
They've had people's heads cut off.
But Los Zetas focused so much on violence, they forgot about making money. The Sinaloa cartel was much better organized and more powerful when it came to trafficking routes. And you know how violence only leads to more violence? Los Zetas inspired a much bigger, much more brutal, and more powerful cartel, the notorious Jalisco New Generation Cartel.
Vives acostado al lado de un cuerpo, ves cómo matan a la gente, pruebas la carne humana. Vives el terror.
The beginnings of CJNG are synonymously with its kingpin, Namasio Oseguera Carvantes, aka El Mencho. He was born in July 1966 and grew up poor as an avocado farmer. In the 1980s, he moved to the US illegally, but he committed so many petty crimes there that he was deported. So in the 1990s, he joined the Milenio cartel, but as Milenio bosses were killed or arrested, the cartel split and El Mencho found his own cartel, initially called Los Torcidos, or the Twisted Ones.
The Milenio Cartel splintered over, and one of those splinters was Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, the CJNG.
In 2009, Los Torcidos became CJNG, and a new terror was born.
Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG, is the single criminal organization most responsible for these deaths on both sides of the border.
El Mencho was inspired by Los Zetas' militarized army, and he took this to the next level. Every CJNG member is dressed in military suits and is carrying very serious firearms. Just look at what the Mexican authorities found at one of the CJNG bases. The army is structured, organized, and trained in warfare. This means that they're always ready to attack or defend their headquarters, but they rarely defend. CJNG's philosophy is to attack everyone before they even do anything, a sort of kill or be killed. But unlike other Mexican cartels, CJNG doesn't just attack rival cartels for power, money, and territory. They attack anyone, from police officers to civilians. They want to spread a message. They are now in charge, and they're ruling by fear. In April 2015, the CJNG ambushed dozens of police officers and trapped them in a corner. Everyone was shot at continuously, and 15 officers died. Another 14 officers were killed in Aguililla, and it was all caught on camera.
Ocho, en Aguililla, ocho heridos, X13, ocho.
CJ&G ambush and shoot them or blow up their cars, and even use drones to track and attack the authorities. Since CJ&G started out in 2009, the homicide rates in Jalisco skyrocketed, and a whole part of Mexico is now unsafe to live in thanks to them. Other towns were reduced to ashes in the war between CJ&G and rival cartels such as Sinaloa or United Cartels.
De un año para acá, fíjese cómo el agua se convirtió en un pueblo fantasma. Las casas pues ya no son las mismas, todas están balaceadas.
And the terror doesn't end here. El Mencho had people infiltrate the police so that CJ&G always knows when they are threatened. One time, El Mencho found out the Mexican military was planning to arrest two smaller CJ&G bosses, El Ere and El Apa, so he began an operation to distract the authorities. This meant creating bigger trouble elsewhere. El Mencho had his men set fire to 25 outlets in Guanajuato. They were shooting at random people and exploding cars just to send the message that El Mencho is in charge. But the CJ&G doesn't just rule with fear or for the sake of it. Today, they have become one of the richest cartels to ever exist, and it's crazy that this happened, in a way, from scratch.
The economical power behind the Cartel Jalisco, they literally started with avocados, so they were farmers. They literally started moving from avocados to chemical precursors to make drugs like methamphetamine. It's like, okay, so what the US market like? They like their avocados from Mexico and their meth from Mexico.
Sounds ironic, but this is exactly what the CJ&G did. And they did it with brute force and weaponry never before seen on cartel members.
And in July, footage would emerge of that CG&G convoy. These gunmen call themselves the Elite Group and pledge allegiance to El Mencho. They're armed with assault rifles with grenade launchers attached to the barrel, heavy machine guns, and also this gun. This is a .50 caliber sniper rifle. It's a powerful weapon that the CJ&G loves to show off.
Showing off is another philosophy behind CJ&G's unspeakable brutality. If you show the extent of your evil, people will be even more afraid of you. First, the cartel shows off its weaponry and paramilitarized fighting style.
They have a very intelligent strategy, which is basically branding themselves and looking like paramilitary power. They do have their full letters, right? The CJ&G on their vests. They dressed as properly military. They also have these high caliber guns. They have what they call those monstruos, which are really basically like man-made tanks, you know? So their firepower is incredible.
But the CJ&G also shows off acts of unspeakable violence towards members of rival gangs. Thanks to modern technology and social media, the cartel can now spread their vile message to more people online. Sadly, CJ&G posts videos of people getting dismembered, beheaded, and tortured in every way possible, always ending the videos with the same message: don't mess with CJ&G. And the most infuriating cut of all, many CJ&G members are in complete denial of what they really do.
A mí no puede haber alguien que diga secuestramos, robamos o extorsionamos. Nosotros no nos dedicamos a eso. Nosotros nos dedicamos, somos narcotraficantes. Nosotros producimos, exportamos y vendemos droga. Eso es de lo que papá de nosotros hace el dinero. Esa es la empresa de nosotros.
They even revere El Mencho as a sort of honorable boss with a strong code of honor.
Yo sé quién es mi patrón, señor Don Mencho, una persona muy honorable y las personas que lo conocen saben la calidad de persona que es. Si yo no pensara de la forma que yo pienso, yo no perteneciera o no fuera parte de este cartel.
Are these foot soldiers caught in a very manipulative cartel propaganda? Or do they choose to stay blind to its atrocities just so they could sleep at night? It's not like you could turn a blind eye to this.
The latest cartel target, Mexico's military. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel took the fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade.
Indeed, El Mencho is now Mexico's most wanted person. The USA is offering $10 million, and Mexico is offering 30 million pesos for any information leading to his arrest. But El Mencho has a whole army of brutal soldiers defending him and him alone. In fact, when they shot down the military helicopter in 2022, they were trying to prevent the helicopter from locating El Mencho. This is how seriously the drug lord takes his privacy. And this is what sets CJ&G apart from other cartels. CJ&G doesn't shy away from targeting Mexican authorities over and over again. They blow up police cars, bring down helicopters, and assassinate public figures who threaten their safety. In May 2018, the CJ&G tried to assassinate Luis Carlos Nájera, the former Jalisco security secretary. In June 2020, they led another assassination attempt on Omar Garcia Harfuch, the public security secretary of Mexico City. And soon after, the cartel killed a judge and his wife while they were vacationing in Colima. The judge had handled several cases against CJ&G members. He had to go. And once again, the cartel spreads fear. What judge would want to take a CJ&G case after this? In August 2022, CJ&G opened fire on the Guatemalan presidential convoy. The Guatemala president's personal guard was traveling around the small village of La Laguna when he spotted an armored convoy of cartel members heading directly to them. The official forces requested the convoy to stop, but the cartel members opened fire. But during the shootout, one of the CJ&G's top dogs, Jose Lopez Velasquez, was injured and arrested.
So far, we can say that Jalisco New Generation is enemy number one of President Enrique Peña Nieto's government.
Yeah, a cartel as powerful and ruthless as CJ&G can easily start a war between two countries. And now, even the Mexican military lives in constant fear of attacks from the cartel.
¿Un dron o qué?
Ese mero.
¿Dónde está el dron?
Está volando derecho arriba.
Hay un dron.
For the first time ever, the Mexican government seems overwhelmed, and this is becoming a known fact worldwide. At the end of 2022, The Guardian reported 26,000 murders in Mexico. The last few years have been record-setting in terms of homicides. In 2021, there were 94 homicides per day. The violence is far from over. In fact, it's at an all-time high. And CJ&G seems to have the upper hand against the police at the moment.
The Cartel Jalisco, they are very well consolidated as one group. And so that means that they can really put up really organized attacks against the Mexican government. And all that violence is only to have leverage in the negotiations with the government, with politicians, right?
It's not just fear and chaos. Violence and fear are currencies for CJ&G.
They create these chaos to go and sit with the local politicians and say like, okay, do you want more or shall we negotiate this?
Remember Pablo Escobar's plata o plomo policy, silver or lead? You accept the bribe or you get the bullet. Well, the CJ&G took this to a whole new level. They don't even bribe politicians anymore. They just scare them into submission. CJ&G is so brutal and so feared in Mexico and the US that they might be officially named a terrorist organization. Today, they're held responsible for the United States fentanyl and heroin crisis.
The DEA says his cartel, called Cartel Jalisco or CJ&G, is responsible for roughly a third of the drugs entering this country by land and by sea.
CJ&G now owns the two major ports where substances come to Mexico from China. And with an army bigger than ever, will the terror ever stop? Well, there are rumors it might. El Mencho had always been a very private kingpin. Apart from a couple of pictures of him, not much is shown. He has never spoken in front of a camera and has always had dozens of soldiers guarding him everywhere he went. But in 2021, he seemed to vanish off the face of the earth. Rumors began spreading that El Mencho finally got what was coming to him.
So with all the rumors around El Mencho being dead or very ill or out of the cartel, that started, I guess they started like around 2020 when we started reading about El Mencho being out of the Cartel Jalisco. I reached out to two middle range commanders inside the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación. One of them believed that he was just literally just out of the cartel. He's like, he's well, he's alive. He's just like stepped out of the cartel. And the other guy believes that El Mencho is actually pretty ill or might even be dead.
In 2020, it was reported that El Mencho suffered from kidney disease and had built his own private hospital to treat it. In February 2022, unconfirmed reports started popping up with even bigger news that El Mencho died in a hospital following a respiratory arrest. While this hasn't been confirmed officially, there is something that might stand as confirmation. Jose Barnabé Brizuela Maraz, alias La Vaca, and his cartel in Colima left several Nacarmantas messages. Banners all around the city spoke of El Mencho being dead. La Vaca was a huge El Mencho loyalist, but believing he was dead, he deserted the cartel. And when drug lords begin to quit work, it means they no longer trust the big cartels. You know how, historically, when a huge kingpin died, the whole cartel crumbled under him? Pablo Escobar and Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo are two worthy examples. Does this mean CJ&G is about to crumble as well? Or does the organized structure of El Mencho left behind has what it takes to choose a new leader? As of 2023, CJ&G is already splitting into tinier factions, all waging war on rival cartels and on one another. This might be the beginning of the end for the most brutal cartel to ever exist. Do you think CJ&G will dissolve as they break into tiny warring groups? Or will El Mencho's legacy of fear and terror outlast this brief moment of chaos? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And before you leave, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more. See you next time.